Well, here we are again with another installment of Meet the Artist, part of the series at the Tucson Gallery inside of the Proper Shops at 300 East Congress. We are in front of the Hotel Congress. We're next to the Rialto Theater. You cannot miss us. And as you know, every week we have a different artist come in and talk about their craft and meet the adoring fans across Tucson that love them. And as part of that, we always get their agreement to do a little bit of a podcast. And tonight's a little special because we have a different type of artist, the only musicians that have anything in the gallery. So we are blessed to have the duo here that is known as Ryanhood, Ryan Green and Cameron Hood. So gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Meet the Artist.
Heck yeah.
Thank you. I think we qualify thanks to you, Cameron, thanks to your art degree.
Yeah, my graphic design background.
There was something to that because it wasn't just an album. It was a book. It was a whole thing. It's like, all right. Plus, people know this. You're my favorite band, so I'm like, they're in. But that's the other reason.
When I was going to the U of A here, I knew I wanted to be a musician, be in bands. But I was like, I don't know that will work. I should have a fallback degree. So art was what I picked. Like, it's so much more reliable.
That's good. Yeah.
But actually,
I'm sure your parents were excited about that. Okay, well, at least he's got art to fall back on, right? That's awesome. So we've done an interview before on the other podcast, Lifelong Streetcar. That was, when Under the Leaves was just coming out. So that was, 2 years ago?
That was, 2021.
Yeah.
Was April 2021.
And I remember we were dealing with COVID requirements. You're about to have a concert, and your big advertisement was the tables were appropriately spaced apart. So
it's crazy how much things have changed, and so happy to be where we're at right now.
So where are we? Are you back on the road? You're touring?
Yeah, it's starting back up this year, and both think we're actually this summer plans to finish writing and begin recording a new album, and the touring is kicking back up. It's a little slower for us than it is for Taylor Swift and Jason Isbell. I feel like the top tier artists are kind of getting the first choice of fans out on the road, but I don't feel like people are fully attending shows as much as they used to still yet. So we're getting there, but it'll probably be about half the pace this year as it was pre-COVID for us.
Taylor's getting all of the arenas, and so they're all booked. We can't book the arenas like we'd like to because she got them.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Taylor Swift, you guys would be the arena band of the 21st century here, I'm sure. The festivals though, is that still a big thing for you? I know pre-COVID you were doing you were like all across the country, like in New Hampshire and everywhere else doing festivals.
A lot in the Northeast. A lot is where we used to live. Is a big area for us. So. That's kind of getting back going too. Everything changed for us. Also, we switched our booking agency that we used to be with went under during COVID. They retired from the biz, and so we're sort of landed with a new booking agency now, and the whole new thing beginning there. So that's still in its infancy, and this won't be a particularly busy summer. We will be up in Michigan and Wisconsin next month, and some stuff like that, and I think Durango, Colorado, we just added something there. Cool show there.
How does that work when you have like a new booking agent? Then do they have to get to know you all together? Or
it takes time to. Well, and what's interesting is you don't really know if it's working until about a year and a half down the road, because things get booked kind of far out. So we played some showcase. We go to some events where we're showcasing for presenters, people that people like Chad Herzog here at Arizona Arts Live, folks like him around the country with their series, and go to see acts at these showcases. And so we've gone to those, and we're presenting, and our agent is pitching us at those.
Okay.
And, we also have momentum from beforehand, so people are coming and asking and booking. But as far as new stuff, it takes some time to build into that new scene with the new person, but everything seems good so far.
I'm just thinking of the movie Blues Brothers when they're out trying to find gigs, and they show up, and they're like, excuse me, man, what kind of music do you have here? And they're like, oh, we got both kinds, country and western.
Right. Perfect fit.
All right.
Yep.
So they had to change their set a little bit, but they did just fine.
Yep.
I think for us, we are kind of getting the engines going back up again. But it's also, we're kind of playing a long game with our band. And so right around the time COVID hit, we had already planned to take time off the road because we were just getting kind of naturally, I don't want to say burned out, but like at the end of whatever that chapter was of going hard and touring, and we needed to lay low. But that's not even the first time that happened. That's like probably 7 or 8 years before that, the same kind of thing happened where we just been going hard for a long time. And there was a natural breaking point where we got off the road, we kind of reassessed, and then we slowly kind of felt our way back out. Like you step into a cold ocean, you kind of like make your way slowly. And, there's a metaphor that I really like, which is that I've gone to the ocean with some friends and I've seen some people be like, all right, I'm going to get out there. It's going to be cold, but I'm going to dive in. And they go do it. And then they burn bright and they burn out and they get out and they go lay on the beach. And I'm this sort of person who sort of like waddles out there very slowly, getting used to it. But I often stay a lot longer. And I think that that's true of our band too, that we've found ways to kind of naturally rest and power down and then slowly sort of power back up and find our sea legs again. And so we're kind of in that process now. There's kind of a breath of our band, an in and an out, and we're kind of like starting to breathe back in again.
Is that sort of a natural thing, or do one of you step forward and say, look, I need a break, or does it, you just sort of both look at each other one day and like, yeah, I think this is time?
I think the first time it happened, so we've been playing together about 20 years, and the first time it happened, 7 years in or so, it was just exhaustion, and we didn't really know. It just sort of snuck up on us. We weren't sure we wanted to keep going, and after some time off, we realized we did want to keep going. And then so I think this last season, we sort of had the foresight to say, hey, we planned it a year and a half out. Again, because gigs get booked pretty far out. We told our agent, hey, in 2020, we want to
be clear, you planned the break, not COVID.
We planned the break.
You didn't plan COVID, right? I want to make sure there's still investigations into that. So.
Edit that out, please. We planned it to take the second half of 2020 off the road, or first half. I don't remember which half.
Yeah, first half of 2020.
And then it turned out everything shut down anyway. So we were already in a good spot because we were not touring at the time that happened. Now we've outlasted, that's sort of when we started as a band, we thought, the secret is not breaking up. All bands break up. We're just going to stick with it. And we've had to learn a lot of skills, personal skills, and how to cope, and also interrelational skills with how to,
communicate, well. Stay friends. Yeah.
I mean, you're on the road a lot, and I would imagine you're not in the Taylor Swift motor coaches all the time.
We don't yet have separate buses. So,
No.
Instead, we share a Kia.
No, that's 2024 is the plan for the separate buses.
We'll get you. I'm sure we'll get you there at this podcast.
Yeah,
People will be supporting you. So you mentioned you're working on a new album. You've been together for 20 years. How many albums have you created in those 20 years?
I'm going to guess 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8, something like that.
Yeah.
Let's name them. We'll count them. All right. So we got Sad and Happiness.
Forward.
Yep. The World Awaits. After Night Came Sun.
Yep.
Start Somewhere. Yearbook. On Christmas. Under the Leaves. Was 8.
Yeah.
And then there was a kind of a best of. Well, we won't count that.
Yeah.
So 8 studio albums. So we're writing our 9th right now.
Yeah. And you cannot imagine the riveting radio it is when we're counting on our fingers.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully the video will come out.
Find the video.
Listen, we know what makes really good art, folks. We know. You can tell.
So we have 8 albums, and how far are you into number 9?
Well, writing-wise, we have 9 songs in different stages right now. So some are done, some are written, but even when they're done being written, there's a big, once you know the chord structure and the melodies and the lyrics of the whole thing, there's still the big question of how you want to perform it, arrange it, what key it's going to be in, who's going to lead sing it, where you put harmonies, whether you're going to flesh it out with some strings or bass or drums or things like that. There's a lot of questions like that. So there's quite a lot to be done still, even on the ones that are mostly written. But we at least have a framework of 9, and it's possible another couple will make it in there as well.
And Under the Leaves, it was really important that you had the companion book that went with that. That was kind of a unique piece. So you want to explain kind of what that.
Yeah, well, we knew we wanted to make vinyl this time for the first time. I've actually been making the album designs large enough to do vinyl for a long time because I've had the secret hope that we would get into vinyl, but this was the first one we actually pressed. So we wanted to have a book that was the same size that could go with it. And we always work with this photographer, Taylor Noel, that we love working with. We basically kind of go, we want it to feel like a little bit gritty and like maybe a little bit of light leaks and color. And then he'll sort of like scratch his chin and go, there's a certain kind of film that was produced in the late late 90s, only by this one company. If you shoot it on this particular kind of camera, we can get exactly what you're talking about. So he's this really good blend of technical know-how, like artistic eye, and then he's just personable. He's like makes the process easy. So we always want to work with him. And he just shot a bunch of stuff. There's some of us, I think it was actually all in Mount Lemon, a couple different shoots on Mount Lemon, and some kind of B-roll type stuff of the leaves and capturing that kind of fall feeling, and some stuff of just us.
But also the chance to, like, the written segment of the book, which is this chance to talk about the songs, which we've never gotten to do before. Like that.
It's so interesting because you hear the lyrics and you sort of understand, but now the book really kind of gives you the sort of the motivation or the thought process as to where you were.
Yeah, and we each wrote an essay essentially for each song, if I remember correctly. So there's both of our approach to it, and many times mine is more feeling more about the musical decisions made, the production decisions, and maybe the emotions conjured up by it. And many times Cameron's is about the message and the sort of intention of the song.
It's really interesting because I'm a 4 on the Enneagram. For any of our Enneagram listeners, that's like a very artistic, individualistic feeling type. But I realized that in our band, I'm completely the thinker, and Ryan is absolutely the keeper of the emotions of the band. So he's the one who's sort of closing his eyes and going in and trying to pull out an emotion and spell it out with chords and a melody. And I'm the one going, wouldn't it be cool if we could say this, or if it meant this, or if we use this symbolism or this metaphor? But I'm very much stuck in my left brain in that sense. And Ryan is very good at living in his right brain and pulling out his emotions. Something I'm appreciating more and more as our band goes on. The differences between
after
us.
20 years, I mean, I'm sure these are revelations that sort of comes gradually over time. And I guess the music sort of starts to reflect that.
I think so. I think we're respecting each other's gift like way more than we ever have. Like there's room for him to do all that he is, and there's room for me to be and do all that I am. And we're stepping on each other's toes less, honoring the other's gift even more.
I think that's a thing as we get older, right? We just sort of start to, like, you understand that that you can't change people, right? And that you could change yourself, and you work on yourself, and you start to appreciate, what people bring. And instead of us trying to, there's probably more of a tug of war in the early albums of push and pull on ideas, and now it's very much realizing, like you said, what each other's strengths are, and saying, hey, you do that, I'll do this. There's plenty of room on this track, and it feels really good to, feel respected and appreciated by him, and I think vice versa. So it's kind of amazing. It is still happening. That growth is still happening. The last album was the first album, Under the Leaves, that really was written with that kind of balance, where really, for the most part, Cameron wrote all the lyrics, and for the most part, and I wrote all the music for the most part, and it was a balance we've never done before.
And our music is more musically interesting than it's ever been now. So that's like something that my ego just finally like let go of, I think. It was just like the best melodies are coming from the guy over here, to my right. And I guess you're across from me now.
Technically, I'm to his right at the moment. So.
But in the many thousands of hours that we've spent on stage, Ryan is to my right, and I know that I can count on him for good melodies and good chords. And I think I've just sort of embraced that now. And I'm like, let me piece my thoughty, wordy ideas to your melodies.
I just realized, because I've never seen you in this way, because it's always Ryanhood, because you're left to right, and you're backwards here. So this is why might be some anxiety with this interview.
Yeah. Cameron does structure it. That was his idea at the beginning, to have us stand on that side of each other, so that it read Ryanhood on the stage from the audience perspective, left to right.
So this might be too personal. If it is, we'll just cut it out. But I'm curious, like, you do so much work together, you tour together. Like, what's the off time? Are your families close, or do you just like need your break from each other?
Well, we do live like 1 mile away from each other, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I think the answer is both. I think we have plenty of time apart from each other when we're home, but we see each other at least once a week. I'm over hanging out at his house and hanging out with his kiddos and stuff.
Yeah. And we, at some point around that middle part of, after that first kind of break, sabbatical in our career, our touring model shifted to being, instead of going out, there was a point where we actually went out, we'd go out months at a time. There's one time we went out for 4 months straight, where we never came home in the 4 months. It was just nonstop touring, and that's way too much. Don't suggest that for anybody. Even if you had a bus, I don't think that would be pleasant. But we shifted to doing shorter runs and coming and going more. So instead of still doing maybe the same amount of shows a year, but instead of doing it all packed into a short amount of time, go out and do 5 shows, come back, go do 7 shows, come back, maybe fly to the Northeast on a Wednesday, play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, fly back Monday. And because we're an acoustic duo, and it's just the two of us, and thanks to Southwest Airlines letting us take our instruments on and checking a bunch of bags for free, we can do those sorts of runs. And anyway, long story short, that gave us some separation, because we weren't together all the time on the road. We'd go do shows, we'd come home. Even if we're home for a week, we're much fresher when we go back out for the next set of shows. We're telling jokes on stage. We're interacting with each other in a way that's really natural and fresh. We've experienced some bit of life away from each other, so we have something new to bring to the table. When we're together all the time, it gets dry on stage, and we try to pride ourselves on that kind of spontaneity on stage.
I think kind of the heart of your question, if you think about your husband or wife or partner, traveling with them, and then you think they are the person that you book your tickets with, then you go to the airport with, and then you spend your whole plane ride with, and then you book your car with, and you do your drive with, and then you load into the place that you're going to be, and you do your work together, and you try to be both creative and have a good business sense together, and then you're still together when you go eat dinner, and then you're together at the hotel room, and then you get up in the morning. Like, I'm
exhausted right now just listening to it.
We all naturally need a little bit of of break, of breath, I guess, to come back to that metaphor again, and it keeps it fresh, so there's just a little bit of room to come and go, and to have something to bring.
Even splurging and getting 2 hotel rooms, it's like, that makes a big difference, It's like, all right, that's our little separation time. He can get up at 6 o'clock and go for a walk. I can sleep till 8:30, whatever we both need.
I love how good you're making me look here. Like, I get up early, so healthy. I am, folks.
Or stumble in at 6:30. Pretend like you're out for a walk.
Exactly.
Went for a walk. So a lot of these festivals, I just recently started getting involved with the Tucson Folk Festival as a volunteer, and I'm getting to see a little bit behind the scenes, but there is a really tight sort of connection between artists, even artists that haven't necessarily met, that they just seem to coalesce around these festivals. After doing this for 20 years now, are you sort of in that position where people are coming to you like, hey, what are some tips? How do we keep this fresh? We're brand new. Are you in that role yet? Or
as far as sort of mentoring bands or something?
Yeah, either mentoring them or just, being recognized as, 20 years is a long time to be performing.
The element is, I feel like I don't know, when you're new in a band, it's just hard to know everything, Right, I can't imagine myself in our early years.
You think you know everything.
I can't imagine myself, a young version of myself, wanting to go to some band, so it's tricky. It's a little bit trial by fire, but we've done workshops at places before like that. There's sometimes festivals where musical getaways where artists will lead workshops, and we've done things that touch on that, where we'll talk about how to lift each other up on stage, not put each other down, and ways that's healthy for a show, but also for the duration of your band. And
yeah, I would imagine if you get a little snarky on stage, that would carry over very quickly off stage.
Yeah. So, well, go ahead.
Well, I was guilty of that in the early. We used to street perform when we first started, and that's really it's hard, and there's times when it just goes awry for whatever reason. I don't know, someone's making fun of you or something, and you're just not feeling good about it. And I would get insecure and often sort of cast blame. He's he's the bigger personality on stage. And so I'd kind of deflect and be like, come on, Cameron.
If it went wrong, it was me.
I learned that I've learned since then.
I know you've taken some improv classes, Ryan, before. I've taken some classes at Unscrewed Theater here in Tucson. And the whole big thing with improv is that you always say yes and. So whatever the other person is bringing, you affirm it and you add to it. You don't go, no, that's dumb, ever.
Okay.
Ever on stage. You're always honoring what the other person is bringing. And then even if you disagree or want to go a different direction, you say yes to it. And then you lead the direction you want to go. And it's just like, I think the whole thing becomes more of a love fest. We're modeling how do we treat each other with dignity on stage. Right?
Well, what I like about your approach to that, Cameron, is it's bigger than just us two. He sees it as anybody. It could be the sound man. We've all been at a show where maybe there's feedback or something. Sometimes there could be a tendency for the artist to throw the sound person under the bus, be like, hey man, can you get that together or something? And those sorts of things start to make everybody feel a little unsafe, I think. And one of my favorite story is when we played the Falcon Ridge Folk Festival and we were doing a little side stage set at the Lost and Found tent. The people who run the Lost and Found tent couldn't go watch any of the shows. And there was a person in that tent who was a fan of ours and said, will you come play a little 15-minute set here? So we were doing one in there, like 20 people unplugged. And it was next to the big row of porta potties at the festival. And the cleaning crew for the porta potties pulled up right as we were doing our set and started vacuuming out the porta potties. And you could hardly breathe. Everybody's eyes were watering. It was so intense. And I got all grumpy, I was just like, oh, of course, right during our set, this has to happen.
Way to go, Cameron.
Of all things. And then Cameron, the song ends and Cameron looks at the crowd and goes, can we all just take a minute to appreciate how lucky we are that these folks are here doing this for us so that we can have clean toilets, that they've showed up to clean them all out for us.
Nice.
And in 20 minutes, we're going to have shiny, clean toilets. And it shifted everybody went from, rubbing their eyes to just like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Wow. They're cleaning those. I'm grateful for that. And it's my favorite, example of not throwing somebody under the bus.
Yeah.
You lift them up and suddenly everybody feels safer and more included.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up here, I should announce that I think this podcast is now sponsored by Southwest Airlines, the friend of the musician traveling cross country. We'll try to get some money for that later.
All right.
But album number 9, is there a tentative release date, or are we just this early into it? Like 2023?
Don't make any promises.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I won't. We see. Yeah, we can't yet. We'll see how quickly we can get it going, and maybe it happens by year's end. It's probably more realistic to think it's the early spring of next year. But if it goes great, I'd love to put it out by the end of the year.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, we meet every week for a few hours to write and make sure that we're moving things forward. But we just doubled that time, so we're starting to move into a time where we're going to be devoting more and more time of our week to making sure that this is moving forward. I love all these songs, good melodies, good ideas in all the songs. So I'm pretty psyched on it.
All right. Well, we'll prepare ourselves for a 2024 release and maybe get a Christmas present a little early for one of your Christmas shows. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's Ryan Green, Cameron Hood. They form Ryanhood. They are our Meet the Artist featured tonight. If you want to listen to any of our other podcasts, we've interviewed now 15 plus artists. You can check them all out on the TucsonGallery.com website under the media section. And also, you want to get on the events calendar so you can find out when all of these artists are going to be live coming in and doing their meet and greets. So that's all on the TucsonGallery.com. And gentlemen, once again, excited to have you here. Thanks so much. And I'm looking forward to the next album and maybe seeing you live here soon in Tucson.
It's always good to be with you, Tom.
Thanks.